Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am so excited that you guys are all here. I wanted to show you something in my room. I got the most adorable gift from one of my friends for my birthday, and it says on it, and hold on, it glows. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to record in. Okay, it glows, but I kind of want to show you, so hold on. Let me show you how it glows. Okay. Put that there. Look at this, it's about to get real dark. Okay, we got it. Look how cute that is. And it's glowing and it's cute and I just love it. So I had to share that with you guys. So today I am sharing another podcast episode from One World Countless Story. Today we have Sheila Hoogenboom sharing her story. In today's interview, we talk about some things that are a little bit more heavy than what we've discussed previously. And I want to start with saying that because I want people to know that wherever they're at in their life or whatever they've been through, is that you're not alone and there's other people, and I'm so blessed and extremely happy that people are courageous enough to share some of the really hard things and the traumas that they've been through and how they've overcome them. So today when Sheila shares her story, she's talking about quite a few really serious things that happened in her life. Starting with, having a child when she was really young and giving it up for adoption, and then moving into later in her life having a husband, having 2 kids, but then him committing suicide. And back in the day when she was married to him, suicide wasn't really something that was talked about like it is today. And so we do have a little bit of a heavier conversation on today's episode, but it is so important and so valuable for people to hear this. And if you're experiencing or if you've gone through something like that, first, I am so sorry that you've gone through that, but know that you are not alone and there's a lot of resources out there for you. So today, Sheila is sharing her story and I can't wait, so let's get started.
My name is Sheila Hoogenboom and I am Selena's auntie by marriage. I married her uncle. And I am a girl that's had quite a journey so far in my 47 years of life, and have lots of good things to share.
Awesome.
I'm ready for your questions.
Okay, awesome. So let's get started with, let's talk a little bit about your childhood and what it was like for you growing up.
Well, it was a good childhood. It was a very simple, blue-collar family. I grew up in British Columbia in the Lower Mainland. I had my mom and dad and my older brother. So childhood was good. And when we started getting into the teenage years, my brother got into a lot of trouble, a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of the kid that was the good kid that went to school and did everything right. And he got in a lot of trouble. So mom and dad were really focused on him. So not necessarily a bad thing. As an adult now, I realize they were doing the best they could. But if I was wanting to be resentful, I would have said, yeah, I felt neglected to some degree. But they were loving, good providers, wonderful parents.
That's good. So you kind of felt like you didn't get as much attention maybe from your parents. What do you think how did that affect you today?
Today, it's made me very focused on when I was raising my children. Maybe I overdid it, I think they might tell you, but I didn't feel I had good guidance with my education and where I was headed and what was going to happen to me, after I moved out and what kind of career I was going to have. I didn't get that guidance. And so I was really hard on my kids to make sure they knew a path. I didn't want feeling like they were floating. I wanted them to have.
Yes, that's very important. And I wanted to talk a little bit about your career as well. And your schooling you talked about and how you had a little bit of an issue with finding direction. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your schooling and anything like that?
Well, schooling, I just drifted through high school. I just needed to get out of there. I didn't really have any focus. And later on, when I was married, we had decided I would stay home with the kids until they were in school, and then I was going to go to nursing school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, exciting. But that plan never happened because of events that happened in my life.
Mm-hmm. So, do you want to talk a little bit about what happened and those events?
Yeah, these are the big events that happened in my life. So as a young kid, I always came to Alberta, always came out to the farm, to my cousins. It was my dream, was to be living on a farm. And so after high school, I moved out here, and was just working and whatever, and had a boyfriend, and was in a committed, couple of year relationship, and I found myself pregnant. So, we got engaged. We were going to do the whole right thing to do. And then that just changed. So I ended up back at home. I had the baby, and I decided to give her up for adoption,
Mm-hmm.
which was, I had no counseling. I had not really a lot of support afterwards. And it was a very, very, very painful journey.
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward from that, I met my first husband, and we were married. I was 22 when I got married.
Mm-hmm.
So typical marriage, had 2 children, had my son when I was 25, had my daughter when I was 27. And when I was in my early 30s, my husband took his life. And he took his life in way, it was in our home. We came home to find him.
Mm-hmm.
My son was 6 years old, and my daughter was just going to be turning 4. So needless to say, my life changed in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And in that time frame, back in 1995, which is when that happened in October, there was not a lot of talk about mental health. There was not a lot of talk. When there was a suicide, it was bad. There had to be something wrong with that person. And it was almost like you were contagious. I had friends that stuck with me. They didn't have a clue what to do, but I had friends that said, I have no idea what to do, but I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Other people that I thought were my friends that just threw me away, like I was damaged.
Yeah.
Like somehow this had something to do with me, and it was very challenging. It was, as I moved through my grief and counseling and trying to help my children understand, because my daughter didn't remember any of it, but my son, to this day, he's now 32, he can tell you exactly what happened that day.
Wow.
So the journey of the stress, I guess that's PTSD to some degree. I had night terrors. I didn't know, how do you have the tools to walk through that?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful family members, and some of them weren't so wonderful. And there was judgment on me. And honestly, as a wife and a mother, it really is an ultimate way for somebody to leave you.
Yeah.
So your self-esteem is hit so hard. I thought, why am I not good enough? Mm-hmm. Why did you leave me like this? So my self-esteem for the next 20 years was this much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my biggest trauma in my life.
Yeah, I
And
was just gonna ask how you started talking a little bit about how that affected you and you felt like you weren't enough. Do you want to go a little bit more into how, you felt about all of the things that just happened?
I honestly, there's time blocks of time, and there's things I don't remember because I think that's your coping mechanism to help yourself survive.
Yeah.
I I felt so meaningless, and I actually went and took a parenting class because I thought, how am I going to raise these children by myself? I
Hmm.
had this child when I was a teen, and I knew enough that I didn't have the tools to raise her and give her what she needed. And now I'm in that same position. How
Hmm.
do I manage and help these children grow? So I took a parenting class, and I've shared this many, many times, but I learned one tool that was so helpful, and it's to stand in whoever you're dealing with, stand in that person's shoes. So for me, it was my children. Stand and be my little 6-year-old boy and look at me, and how am I managing, how am I teaching him, what am I saying to him, how am
Hmm.
I reacting, and how does he receive all that? And that can be applied to anything, your marriage, a relationship with your parents, your siblings, your friends. How is that person seeing you?
Hmm.
That has helped me through my life so much. And not to say it, I haven't had struggles, because it's been a long struggle raising kids by yourself. But it's always kind of brings you back to a center point where you kind of say, smart enough. I need to think about the other person, because children are reactive. My goodness, my kids tested me, and thank the Lord for my parents,
Hmm.
because I had days where I would call them and say, come and get these kids, because I feel like I want to hit them.
Yeah.
That's how you don't even know how to manage your own feelings. And my parents would be over in 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I'd take them for the day, and I'd have time to just kind of regroup and phone my girlfriends and cry and whatever I needed to do. So that was a big learning thing for me.
Yeah. I think that's a great lesson. And like you said, it applies to everything. It's always important that we put ourselves in others' shoes. And I think there's like a quote that's like, walk a mile in someone else's shoes and then approach the situation. And I think it's really important that we do that and consider what the other person is feeling as well. So that is definitely a great piece of advice. Personally, I have never lost anyone very well. I've lost my grandpa, but I don't remember it either. So when we talk about grief, I know very little, but I would love to hear how you, helped your kids and helped yourself. And I know you said you had friends, some friends who supported you, but I know that it's very hard to have people who don't support you in that journey and all that. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you grieved all of this.
That's a long story. I honestly, I didn't even allow myself to grieve for at least a year. I
Mm.
was so hyper focused on my kids, mainly my son.
Mhm.
And we went to a lot of suicide counseling. He did art therapy. He was so afraid that I was going to leave. That as a child, that's what he felt. And he felt what was wrong with him
Right.
that would make his dad leave like that. So that was a challenge that I had with both kids. My daughter, I finally settled, and I was doing a bit of work, and I had to leave her at my parents' house, which is the most loving home, most loving everything. And my daughter, I remember her, everyone was crying. She was screaming because I was leaving, and she was afraid I was never coming home.
Mhm.
She was in my mom's living room window screaming. So I'm leaving, bawling. My mom is bawling because the fear was so intense. And so that's what I had to work on. I wasn't leaving. I'm never leaving. Like I'm here. I'm wrapped around them. It was hard to my son. We later on had him diagnosed with, he had chemical imbalance depression. So trying to manage that was very difficult for both of us. And, you know, he's in a great place now. I'm so proud of my kids for what they have gone through in their little life. They are the most amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
So proud of them. I'm going to get all teary now. I'm so proud of them. But it has been a journey every year as they grow. They would understand more and understand more. So I had very open dialogue with my kids about anything and everything, which I think is very, very important.
Yeah. And how did you specifically deal with it?
I cried so much. I don't ever want to cry again unless it's happy. I leaned on my friends that were there for me, and they would just let me talk. And I did have a counselor that I would see, but I honestly would say the close friends that I had were so vital to my survival. And I had good male and female friends, but you know, another lesson for all the young women out there is embrace the women in your life, because you need your tribe of women. Not your guys, the guys are awesome, but you need your tribe of women because they can support you in ways that the men in your life can't. They get more stuff than the guys do. So, like I said, it's been a journey. It for me, it was, I didn't date for probably about 12 years. Is completely focused on my children, because I saw other relationships of my friends where they broke up and they bring new guys in, and then that doesn't work out and the guy's gone, and then there's the child. Is my one friend, her daughter laid underneath the vehicle just so that person wouldn't leave. Like, I thought, I can't have that. So I just did not date. My kids were teenagers, and they kind of told me I should go out. Go out and get a life.
You started, your kids grew up. You guys started to they started to say, like, Mom, it's time for you to like get out there. So what was like your next step from there? What happened after that?
Well, it was the whole online dating thing. Basically, I think my daughter was 15, and she really, like, I would just stay home all the time, and she'd go, Mom, you need to get out. I coached teams that she was on. I was very involved in the community, had lots of friends. I went out a lot, but didn't date. So delved into the dating world a little bit and ended up with somebody that, in hindsight now, looking back, was a little bit of a narcissist. And, you know, being that the self-esteem wasn't there, I thought, well, that's all I deserve. That's what I should do. That's who I need to be with. So we were engaged for 5 years. Nothing was moving forward, and lots of things happened. Nothing, you know, abusive or anything like that, but just I got to a point where I thought I would be happier by myself than to be with this person. And so I ended that relationship, and I really was quite depressed about life and, you know, people that are out there, because there's a lot of people that don't want a commitment. They just want to fool around and just, I don't know. I don't understand all that. So not my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one question I did have that was kind of from the last little bit that you talked about was just what advice would you give now, looking back at all of the things that you've experienced through that, if someone is in a similar situation or is grieving something similar, what advice would you give to them from where you are now?
Well, I do know that there's a lot more support now. The support group that I tried, I wanted to get into a suicide support group, and really there wasn't anything. There really wasn't anything. There were widowers groups, but it was mainly like more senior people. And I thought, I have no connection with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's a lot more resources, and suicide awareness and mental health is huge.
Yeah.
So tons of resources. I go out, find what works for you, because if you have a counselor that you don't connect with, you can move on and find someone else. You need to feel heard. You need to be able to express yourself. And it is so empowering to have people that know what you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
that can validate all your feelings. So I didn't have anybody that could validate the massive amount of feelings that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt very isolated at times. So I know that there is a lot of help out there, and I would encourage anybody that finds himself in this awful situation to seek that help.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's great advice. And I think that you're right in that find what works for you. And sometimes you got to try a couple different things, but I think eventually there's always something that will get you the help that you need. And I was wondering, so you had said that after all of this, your self-worth was not very great. You felt pretty bad about yourself, and you got into another relationship where you just kind of, you didn't feel like you deserved anything better. What was one of your biggest learnings from that situation?
Oh, many, many things. Again, have your tribe of women.
Mm-hmm.
And, I did have friends that knew that situation, and they kind of gave advice. And I thought, oh, you need to listen to the people that you trust. You need to listen to them. Because if I did, I would have been out of that relationship long before I finally figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, have people that you trust. And even though, it's not stuff you want to hear.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to eat it and just take it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you just need to listen.
Yeah.
So after that, how did you build yourself back up? Because I know you as this like amazing, strong woman, so powerful. And so it's hard for me to imagine you in such a horrible state. And I'm wondering, how did you continue to get to the point where you are today? Because I know there's a couple more pieces, but I'm curious to see, when did it click that, you are enough, you are worthy of love and all of that?
Ending that relationship, I really was reflecting a lot on what I'd already done. And I'd look back and I would think, I don't even know how I did half the stuff I did.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at an amazing job where I was given an opportunity in 2000 after I had done some other jobs, and I got a job at a private surgical center, and I was the receptionist. That's what I was hired to do. And I thought, well, I'm going to be the best one I can be because I need my job and I've got these kids to support. So I learned and learned and learned and learned. And I had amazing mentors of nurses and doctors at my job. And when I left there, I was the manager of the whole thing. And I had been that for several years. And when I left, I had the best party, and my boss, who was a surgeon, he said, and he knew I wanted to be a nurse. He said, you would have been the best nurse ever. And that just, that meant so much to me, even though I didn't achieve that for myself. I did achieve great things, and I had a lot of respect from a lot of professionals. And, you look back on that and you're like, I did that. And I busted my butt.
Yeah.
I worked another job part-time at the hospital. I worked a lot. And then I coached, and I really didn't have a lot of spare time. My daughter was in very high level ball where we were trying to get her a scholarship, and that's another long story, but that all went really well. But yeah, you need to see yourself through the other people's eyes in your life, where somebody can look at you and go, you are so strong, you are so this, you survived this awful suicide, and you raised your kids, and they're great people. And so I had to start kind of looking at myself, and I thought, well, I guess I am pretty okay. I guess I am pretty, I'm an okay person. So again, it's that looking through someone else's eyes, and you need to feel that from your tribe of people. They're not hanging out with you because you're an idiot. They're hanging out with you because there's something that you give off that is a good thing.
And I think it's really important, and I definitely see a theme throughout our conversation of just having your people. And definitely, I think we often don't give ourselves enough credit for what we do and what we go through. And we say, well, someone had it worse, or we just point blank, we can't see it. And I think that it takes a lot of reflecting, and sometimes we don't want to do it, but once we do and look and like, yeah, you were an absolute boss. Like you raised 2 kids that are amazing. I can vouch for that. You had multiple jobs, you were coaching, you were doing all these amazing things. And so it's definitely taking an outside view and being like, yeah, I am awesome, which is not easy to do, but like,
it's not.
It's hard, because let me tell you, we get in those ruts where it's like just constant beat up. But when we finally get to that point where we can really look at it and be like, dang, we did a lot, then it's just like, it's so magical and so awesome. So after you broke up with that guy that you were engaged to, what happened next?
Well, it's going to sound really weird and flaky, but I honestly, I typed out some affirmations, and I had them stuck on my closet door. And so I would make sure I looked at them every morning when I got up, and I would read them.
I love that.
You deserve whatever it is you want to give to yourself. I'm not going to share all mine, but I wanted to meet somebody that was good for me, somebody that honestly could see me, be me. And, I worked hard at work. I hung out with my friends. I got into a little more fitness. I was doing these hikes, which almost killed me. And thank God one of my nurse friends was a massage therapist as well. And I thought, I'll try the dating thing one more time. So I thought, well, I should spend some money, because I don't know, these other sites I wasn't really happy with. It was so went on to the eHarmony, and they match you up with these people and whatever, and they matched me with this guy in Alberta who had he needed your help, but he had the most horrible picture. I couldn't tell what he looked like, but what he had written was very heartfelt and really spoke to me. And I thought, I want to know who this person is a little bit more. So we talked for about 6 weeks, and we just, everything was great, great, great. He had lost his wife of many years, and, you know, I was single. So he came out to Vancouver, and I don't know, like, I don't know what was with him. He bought this luxury car while we were out, which is your uncle.
Yeah.
And we went to their penthouse, and there was the symphony of fireworks. It was the finale, and we're in the penthouse. It was like the most beautiful setting. And we just clicked. And he is, as you know, the most wonderful person. It was a very quick romance. And I felt like he could see me. And that first visit that he came out, we were in the lineup at the movies, and he put his arm around me and he whispered in my ear. He said, "Sheila, your life is going to change." And I didn't know how to take that, but boy, did he really know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So, you know, long story short, he's the most amazing person. He supports me. He sees me. He builds me up. He tells me positive things every day. He's loving. He loves my children. He's a family man. He's a hard worker. And when I moved here, he said, "Sheila, you can go work." But he said, "I'm telling you, you never have to work again a day in your life for someone else." I mean, I work hard at our farm.
Yes.
And I live on a farm, and I have horses, which is like my childhood dream, and have this beautiful extended family. I mean, it's not all rosy. There's some family members that have had challenges with it. So that's been really hard for everybody, but we can only kind of take one step at a time with that stuff. So, yeah, I am living my dream. I am married to the person that I envisioned myself being married to. You know, none of us are perfect, but boy, it's been an amazing, well, we've been just over 5 years married now.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So you said that you're like living your dream life now. And I want you to tell us a little bit about what you thought when you were younger and then how it's turned out to be now.
Right. I didn't want to live in the city. I wanted to have land. I wanted to have privacy. I wanted to have animals. I obviously wanted to have a loving husband, and I wanted a big family. I wanted to have people at my home and have company and all of these things. I have cried. The first year I lived here, I cried every day. I would go out in the yard and I cried. I'm thinking, I can't believe this is where I live. And as we moved along, you know, we went and bought horses. Like, he bought me horses, which is, you know, every little girl's dream. And now, you know, I mean, you know, I've got the 4 big dogs, and I've rescued donkeys, and we have cattle, and it's just a good life. It's so private. I just can't believe it. From living in a townhome where everybody knew your business all the time. And it's just having that person that gets me, and I can be my authentic, weird self with, and he just loves it.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I just love hearing this story because it just sounds like it just is like truly magical and amazing. And I just love that you guys were able to find each other and are so happy now. My question is, which I don't want to bring like make it like a down or anything, but I know that not everything has been, sunshine and rainbows. So
No.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced merging into a new family.
Well, we decided after a lot of conversation that we would live on his home farm where he lived with his children and his wife, which of course can be challenging for those family members. We are all adults, so, you know, but moving into a community where my husband and his previous wife were very established was very challenging. There's lots of gossip and lots of stuff like that. And he's fairly well off. And so I know there's a lot of judgment on that of who I am. And again, that kind of hit my self-esteem again, because you have anxiety. I'm thinking, what do these people think of me? What have they heard about me? And so it's taken a while to go into the community and just have people meet me and know who I am. It doesn't diminish anything from the previous marriage and everything. And I've got photos of his previous wife in my home because his grandchildren need to see that. You need to embrace everything. You don't just erase people because you've moved forward into something else. And it's been challenging with merging all of our adult children together. And there's been bad communications and what have you. And it's a work in progress. So, you never just throw people away.
Yeah.
You gotta, again, try and stand in their shoes and what are they thinking and feeling and how do they see things and how can we help change that?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
it's been a very slow process moving along here, but there's lots of really loving family too, and welcoming family and friends, and
That's
to just
good.
be open.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. Okay, so I know that you have now reunited with your daughter that you gave up for adoption. So I want you to tell us a little bit about that as well.
Right? Like there's so much to tell.
Yeah.
I reconnected with my aunt, which is my mom's sister, and I hadn't really seen her she's here in Calgary. And we were moving my mom in BC, selling her home. And so we did a lot of talking. And I said, I really want to reach out and see if I can find my daughter. And I didn't tell anybody what I had done. So you have to apply for your paperwork, and that's kind of phase one. And so my paperwork came in, I came back to the farm and I started reading it. And, they blank out a lot of the vital information. And I flipped to the next page and I'm reading it, and her full adopted name was on the paper. So I freaked out. And I went to Facebook, of course, and I pulled up her name, and it was like looking at myself. This person was so much me. So now I'm like a lunatic, and I was waiting for your uncle to come home so I could share that with him. He had no idea I had done it. So I reached out to her, and it was days that I had to wait for her to connect with me. So my other daughter thought I was losing it because she didn't know what was going on, and I was just kind of a weirdo. So my phone pinged. It was on a Sunday, and it was my 1-year wedding anniversary with your uncle. And it was a message from my daughter. And it started out saying, please know that your message is warmly received. And I couldn't read anything else. I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. Anyways, we met. She's amazing. I've met her parents and her grandparents and her sister, and she grew up in the most loving home. And now she's part of our family. And yeah, so that circle is complete now. All the heartache and the hurt and the pain, like so much pain with that is just gone. And
That's
she
so
actually was just here. She left yesterday because her little sister's birthday was on Saturday and she turned 30.
That's so awesome.
Ah.
And my question is how did it feel when you guys reunited?
It was so natural. I decided I was going to fly to Vancouver because I told everyone I'm not talking to anyone. I'm spending 4 days with her, and I need to be completely and utterly selfish. I can't think about anybody else in this time frame. So I drove up, I texted her, I met her at her apartment, and she had to come down and open the door. And when she poked her head out the door, I honestly, it was like looking at myself. We obviously look very, very similar. And we talked and talked and talked, and it was just instant comfort, instant love. And it felt like I've been with her for years. And it felt like that with her parents too. It was just natural and beautiful and comfortable.
That's so awesome. And some of the feelings that you had said, like it was really hard for you over the years. What were some of those feelings you had before you met her again?
Early on, I had many, many, many years of guilt, feeling guilty. What if she's not in a happy home? What if she's this? What if she's that? And not knowing, because it was a closed adoption. I had 2 letters from her mom that were very, they had to be read by someone else to make sure it didn't give away any information that I wasn't supposed to know. It was very closed. So it was the not knowing. And I would think of her on her birthday, and I would, I had so much guilt. Meeting her and her parents, it was just gone. She had an amazing childhood, wonderful family. And now we have like more blending to do. Like we're all, it's more family.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's such a beautiful story when we hear that you guys are reunited and everything is just, natural, which you would want. So that's amazing. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or anything that I missed to ask you about in your journey?
Oh my goodness, there's so much stuff. But I mean, those are kind of big vital components, and it's just learning to surround yourself with people that are good for you. There are toxic relationships that suck energy out of you, and you don't have to be mean or whatever with that, but you need to surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up and move you forward and help you see yourself the way that they see you. Because sometimes we can be our own worst. You get that voice that tells you all these crappy things all the time.
Yeah.
You got to try and get rid of that and listen to the people that are telling you otherwise.
Absolutely.
So ignore the voice. Tell them to get lost.
Tell the voice otherwise. Awesome.
Can't say bad words on here.
That's right. We keep PG.
Yeah.
If there is nothing else, I do end every conversation with 4 questions. There, you might have heard them, but I like to kind of keep them a surprise. So are we ready to go into that? Yeah. Okay, awesome. Okay,
Are
so
you ready?
I'm ready. So my first question for you is, what is some of the best advice you've received and from whom?
Well, like I said, it was the stepping and standing in the shoes of others.
Right.
Honestly, that is, I have used that and I have shared that so many times for people. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's helped with different situations of friends in having problems.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that piece of advice is very valuable. I agree. So that is a great one. Okay, the next one. So what is some of the worst advice you've received?
Oh my goodness. Lots of advice about my son who was having struggles. There were all these people, over here that had no idea the journey, but I should do this and I should medicate him and I should do whatever. And I disregarded that. I thought, you don't know. You don't know what we're walking through here. So thanks, but I'll trust myself to try and do the best I can, which, obviously I didn't. I made lots of mistakes, but, we journeyed through it.
Yeah.
So just not listening to people that are chirping into things that they don't really know the depth, and it's none of their business. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one thing we didn't really go into very much, was just about how your son had depression. Real, what did you call it again?
It's a chemical imbalance.
Yeah. So I was curious, and how did you help him deal with that?
He, we went to a lot of counseling, which was resisted heavily, especially as a teenager. But he had some very dark times. I don't want to share too much of his stuff, but we did have him had blood work, had all kind of chemical things happen, and we did get him onto some medication that was a light antidepressant, and he used that for I think almost a year, and he was struggling. And he said, Mom, I think he was 17. And he said, I really don't like how I feel on this. And so we did a bunch of research, and for him, if he uses, if he eats well, supplements, curbs the sugar and the junk, got to exercise, we moved into that, and he transitioned off his meds, and he did pretty good. And I know as a man now, he gets himself. I really wanted him to understand his own being and what was happening with him and how to manage to help himself, because I could only do so much as a parent, and I didn't know anything about depression, and so I was doing the best I could. And I'm sure, as a young man, he was probably resentful of some of the things, but I'm sure now he's in his 30s that he probably figured out, yeah, Mom really went out on a limb and tried her best. And I think he's doing great.
Yeah. And I think the main part about that I really grabbed too is that, you can try, all the different things to see what works for you. But I think a lot has to do with the way, we get outside, exercise our bodies, or don't do that. And so that's why I wanted to see a little bit about what you said there, because I think it's so important for anyone that struggles with depression or doesn't have depression to just really take care of themselves. And I think that's so amazing that he was able to get access to that at such a young age. So I think that was incredible. And I just really wanted you to share that little bit about how, you do have to try and, be aware of how you feel, but there's a lot of things that you can do if you don't want to have the medication that can really help you. So I think that's a really powerful story too.
Yeah. Because lots of times we just want to hide under the covers.
Yeah.
Right. Or I think the younger generation now, they dive into video games and whatever, which has a time and a place, but my goodness, you need to get out and see life and enjoy nature and, challenge yourself in different ways.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Okay, so my next question, which I love this question, it's like my all-time favorite. It is, what advice would you give your younger self or someone in the younger generation?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on what age bracket. I would say you really got me.
It's okay. You can think about it.
Yeah, you just need to challenge yourself in doing many different things so that you can kind of pick and choose what's going to work for you. Don't just get kind of pigeonholed into one because my mom did this, I should do this or whatever. Explore yourself and allow yourself to figure out what's going to work for you. And it might not be exactly what your parents think or whatever, but they can guide you and help you. But life is your journey. And it's your parents normally have kind of a plan for you, but you got to forge your own plan as you go and be reasonable and have discussions and that. But yeah, I wish I had more guidance that way.
Yeah.
Of figuring out my plan. There really wasn't, because my brother really had a lot of challenges and they really focused on him. So that would be my advice.
Yeah.
Explore some life for yourself.
It reminds me of a quote that I just recently heard that was like, you are the author of your book, so you get to decide what your character is and what it does next. And I think that's along the lines of what you're saying, in that, push yourself to try new things, but at the end of the day, you get to decide what you want to do. So I think that's awesome advice.
Yes, and you do have to own everything. That includes owning your own mistakes.
Yeah.
That's how we grow. You can't just point a finger at someone else. You got to point it at yourself if you've made the decision.
Absolutely.
It's a good thing. It's a growing thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question, which is, it's not going to be a hard one. I think you'll have an easy time with this one, but what are you grateful for?
Oh, what am I not grateful for? I am grateful for my life. I am grateful for my friends and my family. Oh, my family, big time. I'm grateful for where I live. I'm grateful for the opportunities I have that I never thought I'd travel. I never thought, so many things.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for the relationships that I have, because as you move through life, you can have material things, but honestly, if you don't have good, solid relationships with people, you don't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you take with you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take your stuff. I learned that early on, because that was a big thing that my husband was taught, was you amass things that shows how wealthy you are and how well off you are. But I remember sitting in my living room looking at all these things, the stereo and the whatever we had, and I thought, well, it's all mine now. You don't. So that lesson is big, is you can have nice things, but you've got to have people and good relationships.
Yeah. No, that's very important. And that's like the best way to end this interview, like so powerful, give you some food for thought. And I just wanted to really take this time to thank you for being so open and talking about some of the really difficult things that happened in your life that often are not easy to share and talk about. And I just want to congratulate you and your courage to share this. And I hope that it resonates with someone and it will help them to know that, bottom line, you are not alone, and that there's other people who have experienced similar things as you. And it's just finding your people, like you said, and just, going through all the different motions. But I really wanted to thank you, because it's not easy to do what you just did. So yes, thank you for coming on today and just sharing all the ups and downs of your life.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I just wanted to say thank you again so much, Sheila, for coming on and being so vulnerable and talking about your life and a lot of the hard things that have happened to you in your life. You made it, we had a few laughs, and you made it super easy to talk about some of these really hard things, and you talked a lot about how you overcame it. So if you need more support, there's lots of support out there, and we talked about a lot of things, but one of my favorite things we talked about was finding your people and finding your tribe and knowing that you're not alone out there. So that is all we have for today. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and do all those types of things. And again, thank you, Sheila, and thank you to all of you who are listening to my podcast and showing up all the time and listening to all of my new episodes. So that's all I have for today. I hope you have a great day. Bye.